Please.
Minister, on Saturday, June the 18th, the recently established Cost of Living Coalition is calling people out on the streets for a national demonstration and day of protest to demand a comprehensive, urgent and radical package of measures to address the cost of living crisis that is absolutely crucifying workers, pensioners, students, people on low and middle incomes, and to protest against really the spectacular failure of the government to address this cost of living crisis that people are facing. Today we have more evidence of the government's failure to address the cost of living crisis. Eurostat now saying that we are facing 8.3% inflation. That means the value of workers' wages, of pensions and incomes are going to drop by over 8% in terms of their purchasing power. So real cuts in income for the people who can least afford them. And then we have the Taoiseach warning of a new era of high energy prices. And that's on top of last year alone, 42% increase in energy and heating costs for ordinary people. And against this background of a cost of living crisis, the government acts like a helpless, innocent bystander that can do absolutely nothing about it. Isn't going to do anything before the budget, and it is totally unclear that it's going to do anything at all. And that's why people are coming on the streets. And by the way, just to underline, even the crisis that's happening in Dublin Airport is linked to that problem. In a word, the problem there is the DAA, who have executives who have total packages in excess of €366,000, expect security workers who they're hiring to operate on rubbishy, flexible contracts for €14 an hour. And where they can't even plan, they won't even know what hours they will have and therefore what income they will have a week later. Is it any wonder they have difficulty recruiting people? But the chief executive who's overseeing this is on a package of €366,000 a year. And that is the problem on that bigger crisis that we face. Hundreds of thousands of people, more than 600,000 in this country suffering deprivation, hundreds of thousands of workers on low pay, but spectacular profits being made by the energy companies. Up 46% for Energia last year, up to nearly 700 million by the ESB. And even Boris Johnson, the Tory, can introduce a windfall tax on the profits of these energy companies to try and get some revenues to protect ordinary people from the cost of living crisis. But this government won't even do what Boris Johnson is doing. And my God, he's no left-winger. So when are you actually going to bring in emergency measures on housing costs, on people's income being slaughtered, and on a cost of living that is crucifying ordinary people? And what is going to be in that package? Because so far the government has done nothing.
Thank you, Councillor Corley. Well, Deputy, I don't expect you to come in here and give any kind of fair assessment of what the government has done. But to come in and say the government has done nothing is just blatantly incorrect, and you know that. We have introduced, including the last budget and the measures since, a package of about €2.4 billion of taxpayers' money to support people, to support households, because we recognise and absolutely acknowledge the impact of the extraordinary level of inflation that is currently being experienced. And of course, an inflation of over 8% is a real concern, because it does impact on people, and it does impact on living standards, and it impacts on the competitiveness of businesses. But this is a global phenomenon. We also have to acknowledge that. In the UK it's 9%, US it's 8.5%, 12 of the 19 Eurozone countries have a rate of inflation higher than Ireland's in today's Eurostat publication. And that is why we did respond. And that's why the government continues to ensure that we can continue to fund the measures that we've already announced. including the reduction in VAT, the reduction in excise duty. We have, as you know, brought in 2 separate bullet payments to fuel allowance recipients, the €200 energy credit in respect of electricity bills for all households. The PSO levy is being cut from October of this year. We've a major multi-annual national retrofitting scheme. We've put caps on school transport fees for families. We've cut transport fares by 20%, with an additional 50% cut in fares for young people. We've reduced the drugs payment scheme threshold to €80 per month, benefiting over 70,000 families. We've brought forward the changes announced in the last budget in respect of the working family payment, and we've reduced hospital charges in relation to the complete abolition of any charge for children overnight, as well as targeted measures. The 9% rate for tourism and hospitality has, as you know, been extended, and we've introduced specific measures in the haulage sector, the tillage sector. Minister McConalogue has introduced a suite of measures to support farmers and rural communities in that regard. But look, I don't expect you to give the government any credit for that. You want more to be done, and that's a reasonable political position to adopt. What we are seeking to do as a government is to navigate our way through this and to help the country to get through this period. We're engaging in social dialogue with the main social partners through the Labour Employer Economic Forum, the trade unions, the employer bodies. We'll have the National Economic Dialogue happening on the 20th of June, which will provide an opportunity for a wider set of stakeholders and opposition parties also to set out their position. But we also need to be honest with people, Deputy. We need to be honest with people. These are extraordinary times. This is a level of inflation which is a record. It's never happened before in the Eurozone. In fact, it is global. We will do the best we can as a government to support and assist people, and I think we have to date. But it is not possible for any government to introduce measures that completely offset the impact of a terrible war in Ukraine, which has caused such dislocation in the energy markets and in relation to so many other foods and materials across the supply chain. It is having an impact. We acknowledge that, and that's why we have responded to date, and that's why we're now finalising what our budgetary position is going into the summer economic statement and the preparation of the budget.
The reason why so many people have got involved in this new cost of living coalition, pensioners groups, retired workers groups, student unions, single parent advocacy groups, anti-poverty groups, trade unions and so on, is because the measures you've been taking are a drop in the ocean that are making little or no difference to the crucifying increases in the cost of living that people are facing. And they are acutely aware, and this is the key point, Minister, they are acutely aware this is a tale of 2 crises, if you like. Ordinary working people, pensioners and students being hammered with the cost of inflation, but they see simultaneously some people are doing very well out of it. The Oxfam report last week, Ireland's 9 billionaires saw their assets and wealth increase by 55% last year. The energy companies see their profits going through the roof. So the billionaires and the millionaires, or the CEOs of the DEAA, who seem to be more interested in setting up airports in Saudi Arabia than in sorting out the problems in Dublin Airport, are doing very well. But workers, pensioners, students and ordinary people, the measures you're taking are simply not enough, because you won't address the elephant in the room, is the gross inequalities in income and wealth that exist in our society.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy. And look, you saying that what the government has done is not enough is a fairer comment, because that is your view. But to come in and say we did nothing, as I said, is completely incorrect. I do not accept that €2.4 billion in measures represents a drop in the ocean. For a country the size of Ireland, the use of taxpayers' money of that magnitude is a major decision. It's not one that we made lightly, but it was absolutely warranted. And to take those interventions outside of the normal budgetary calendar, to reduce VAT, to reduce excise, to introduce once-off payments, to introduce better social welfare supports, is not something any government would consider in normal times. We also have to be cognizant of the wider picture here, Deputy. There are increasing risks to the global economy. And as a small, open trading economy, Ireland is not immune from those risks either. You will be aware the cost of borrowing for our country has increased significantly in recent weeks. So we're going to work our way through this. The priority now is to agree in the summer economic statement, taking all of those factors into account, what is the appropriate budgetary stance for Ireland? How much money should we be spending, and can we afford to spend? And we will then make decisions as a government to be as fair as we possibly can, and recognising the cost of living challenges that people are undoubtedly facing, but also being honest with people. The government cannot fully offset the impact on people's lives of this terrible war, which they had absolutely nothing to do with. Thanks.